Thanks, QuickShot. I'm joined by the new support for ROCCAT. Of course, it is Noxiak. First game with the team, first win. So congratulations on that. I want to ask you a little bit about how you managed it, because I know Bard's a big pick for you, and this is the first time you got to play him on the big stage. How did that feel?
Felt pretty amazing, because it's like pretty much a favorite champ. Like, it's the champ I play the most in solo queue, and I'm pretty confident in it, and it's just awesome to play it in LCS.
I'm glad you got a chance. I remember back at IEM Cologne, you had that like perma-band against you, and to see it come out, I'm sure you were happy. I know Krepa was happy for another one. But now you're on this team. It's kind of like a second chance for you to kind of move up towards the end of this split. I know ROCCAT are struggling, but that's the third win. You have a chance to now catch up to some of the other teams close to the bottom of the table, maybe even push a little bit further. How confident do you feel on this ROCCAT squad?
I think this ROCCAT squad is a different team than it was in the start. Like, a lot of players changed because of visa issues or of other reasons. And I think the players right now have all a lot of potential, and it's a pretty different team than in the start. So I think the score that we have right now doesn't really reflect the roster we have right now. So I'm pretty confident.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how you guys do. So just if I can get like maybe a last one, just a prediction where you think you'll place it at the end of the year. I don't want to put you on the spot if you're comfortable with that.
Where we end at maybe 7th, 8th.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to seeing if you're able to pull it off or even push farther ahead. Congratulations on your win, Noxiak, and I'll look to see even more from you. For now, though, we're going to send it back to the analyst desk to break down that win, close out the day.
Thank you very much, Pyrotechnics. Indeed, it must feel good for Noxiak, of course, getting kind of a second chance and proving to play well here. And ROCCAT winning over the Unicorns of Love. I think we can draw conclusions for both teams. Let's maybe start preliminary conclusions, obviously, with ROCCAT, because we finally saw the things that have been going good for them in the past. Betsy being strong, their strong early game, they were finally able to close it out. How much is that related to that change maybe in Noxiak, or how do you guys see that, Prolly?
I don't know. I think it's really important to have a vocal support, because they're the least mechanically intensive role where they can actually take breaths.
Flaming support, man, wow.
But that's obvious. Give me a break. Bard's hard, whatever. Everything else is a lot easier. Anyways, so they kind of get a breath in their play where they can actually like look at the map and give some good direction. So I think it's really important to get Noxiak, who's already been on a team before and had experience like this split even. So he's fresh off of Fnatic into a new team. So I think this helped out a lot with it.
I feel like this also is the kind of game that's almost perfect for ROCCAT as a first game for Noxiak, because Unicorns have really struggled to kind of punish teams right now. So when you win the early game against the Unicorns of Love, they tend to just kind of go 5 and try and run headfirst into you, which is exactly what ROCCAT wanted in this game here. So it was a good game by ROCCAT, but again, it showcases a lot of the issues Unicorns have right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's more like I'm happy that Betsy showed up in this game, right? Especially we're gonna see a little bit later that the last team fight was insane. Just Valkyrieing in to get both carries, just winning the fight by himself, and it just showed he's still confident with Noxiak pickup.
Well, actually, take a look at it right now, because you mentioned it, the replay of the endgame team fight. You were touching on how you'd like to talk about Betsy. Of course, you have experience coaching him as well, but it's someone that we've been singing the praises of for the past several weeks, and now he really was enabled.
All right, so here we see they're just trying to all in a little bit on Freddy, but Steelback is taking a lot of damage and cannot go that much. Rox is missing his combo, getting a bit out of guard, missing a little bit of stop, and then after you see Betsy on the right side of the map just instantly Valkyrie into 2 people and then exhausting at the same time Steelback, and just makes it really clear to just blew off 2 people out of the game, and it was really good.
Wow.
We got a future play-by-play caster right over there.
Oh, did I? All right, that was just the idea. Yeah, that was more about analysis tool, but I think it was really good play, right? Corki is a big power pick right now, even if he got a little bit nerfed, we still like it, flex pick, and with the poke and magic damage he bring, Betsy showed up, and I'm really happy for him, because I think he's a really good player, even if ROCCAT was a bit struggling in the beginning. I think he's a good player.
Where was this Betsy last year?
In Gambit. I mean, it was in Gambit, but I think he's winning confidence more and more, right? He's still really young compared to the World LCS, and he came for solo queue, got some good experience with Diamond, Edward, winning, and then after a moment, when you come into another team, you're like, oh, but actually I'm a bit a veteran right now. I've been there for 2 splits, so showing up more and more, then after getting more responsibility, and Airwax is camping in a lot, getting a lot of resources, so then when he shows up, then he deserves it.
Hey, shook Camps Cabochard as well, right?
Stop. I mean, that it's not even true, right? So
we do know, but character.
I mean, for Cabo, it's really funny.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean
Settle
like
it.
for this mean, I think maybe with Diamond was true, but right now it's not even true. So it's even better for us because teams think like that, but in the end we don't. So then after it's more like Shook and Casting works together for the vision control. So
Yeah. There, it's settled.
The mind games.
Mind games. We do need to touch on the Unicorns of Love here. You know, obviously, we've all said they look stronger in the beginning of the season than they've had. Will they keep it up? Will they keep it up, rather? There is no progression anymore, which worries me. Of course, they have the fourth jungler now coming in. You know him very well. Lulex, as he used to play on your team. How much of an influence does that have once again? I mean, this is a jungler, and in this current meta, it's so important. And how do you think the style of Lulex meshes with the UOL or doesn't?
Well, the problem, like UOL's, like even in this game, like they didn't really have a winning lane. Like I know, like Lucian got an 80 or got a lead eventually, but that was, I feel like, more of ROCCAT kind of playing weirdly and not so much like through laning phase. So I feel like when you have these lanes that like aren't necessarily winning, whatever jungler you put in is gonna struggle. Like they're not gonna have a great showing because a lot of the jungle's reflected on like how well the laners are able to do. So I think regardless of what jungler they use, it's like I think they need to focus a lot on their laning phase to kind of get the game going in their direction.
Yeah, it's been very strange with Unicorns of Love because a lot of teams, they stop improving, but they still do some things well. I feel like with Unicorns, the last like 2 weeks, it's just really just gone downhill in many ways. Like laning phase is weaker for them. We no longer see the same carry games, at least maybe not as often. Steelbike has stepped up once or twice in the last few weeks. I'm again just looking at like this shot calling thing we praised them for in the start, where they actually made good macro decisions, was setting up good dives with a split pushing Z and so on, and like going in 3-man and killing the target he was against. Now it's kind of like play laning phase, then play super passive in side lanes and give up farm and always get pushed back, and then like try and run 5-man mid.
Yeah.
And that's not a viable strategy. I mean, you guys, you talk always about side lanes, push up side lanes, you know, be proactive on the play. Unicorns are doing the opposite. They're waiting for waves to come down to their towers and then like slow pushing them out.
Well, I mean, like I think the UL strategy hasn't changed much. And before, when they like group and fight, like last split, people would be happy with fighting last split. This split, everyone is super, like, you know, team fight comps don't start until 25, 30 minutes. So the UOL running around trying to find fights, now they're playing against a whole bunch of teams who just want to play the map. So now they're not finding the fights that they would normally find. And you end up just seeing them, getting pushed in side lanes and then getting dove mid all of a sudden.
yeah, I agree on that one. Like one pick that really I don't like seeing on Unicorn is Victor, because like Victor is a champion that just slows down the game, and then if you put anyone else with Victor on the mid lane, it's a waste, because Victor will just press E and just alone clear the wave. Only maybe Braum can block it, but it was not in this game. So like after the support jungle synergy, once you get that, it's a bit weird, because you get your AD carry on the side lane, but AD carry is like really weak. And if he gets caught off guard, like for example, if you play against Lissandra on the side lane, or like LeBlanc, or like any champion, then after the AD carry doesn't want to go. So in the end, if you have Victor, you force AD carry on the side lane, but the mid laner enemy will go on the side lane, so it will be like really imbalanced, because AD carry cannot face the Lissandra. So in the end, you will like just maybe have Victor fed, but you will lose side lane, then top, then bot, then top, then bot. Maybe the mid turret is like fine, but all the rest is like down, and then that's what I've been really ROCCAT this game, just taking turret little by little on the side, and then one mistake of gets mid turret, Victor cleans.
So a situation like this for a team, now that we have two coaches here, and I know probably you love to talk about responsibility and everything. If this was your team, where over like 2 or 3 weeks we felt like it was going downhill, there was definitely some issues, would you guys take the blame for that? Or do you feel like it's more fair to go like, you know, it's a mix of the players and whatever, or like, would you be okay saying like this is on me as a coach?
Referring to the
If I'm being in the coach spot now,
if this was H2K, the last 3 weeks showing the
Okay.
performance the Unicorns of Love has shown.
yeah, I mean, so their lane swap hasn't been like impressive, which I think relies a lot on the coach. Like their team fighting, has a lot of issues, which I think a coach should be able to fix. And then we talked about like their side lane control. That's really like a macro perspective where you're not really gonna learn it like playing the game. You're gonna learn it watching the game. And normally the coach, brings you through a replay and you learn from that.
Yeah, the idea is that there are two possibilities. Either first, they don't have the knowledge right now, so like the coach can come in, or like just a player could step up, just watching a replay on his own. Oh guys, I figured out this is really good in terms of side lane. Look, H2K is doing like that. They're doing really good into this, so let's do this. Or if the second option is that they have the knowledge, but they don't put it on the stage, and then after they're getting like a bit flabbergasted when it comes to just where do we go, guys? Oh, we're actually getting out pressure, and like teams that are top in the standings just like know that, so then after like they just abuse you like little by little.
Yeah, good you mentioned it. Teams at the top of the standings. Let's take a look at the standings because we have 3 teams locked in for the playoffs right now. You guys are with them, G2, H2K, and Team Vitality. The Unicorns of Love are still in that spot together with Fnatic and Origin hot on their heels. Means there are 3 places left or 3 spots left to get in the playoffs. Let's talk about who then can make it. Finally, maybe Unicorns of Love.
Yeah.
Even with the struggles now, can they still make it? Will they still make it? And what are their chances?
I would say after today, it seems really low. Like through pick and ban, they're like taking Alistar first over Kalista, and they're giving Corki to Betsy, who's shown he's like a pretty dominant mid laner. It just seems like their pick and ban seems pretty weak, and it doesn't seem like they have too many just flat out strengths right now. So I think this might just be a really bad patch for them, or they're just, they don't have any kind of, what's the word? I guess someone to like push them to improve, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. For the picks and ban phase, like we don't know how much like Shippy input or like players and stuff like that. But yeah, it reminds me a bit of our games. Like in my scenarios, like I was not expecting to get Lulu, Kog'Maw, and Tamkench to help him. So I was like, all right, guys. Like I mean, there's nothing to trap, so just go for it. And you feel that the game are a bit easier when you get like those good champions into it.
And I guess also the problem is when we look at the overall standings, as you just mentioned, I don't feel like the top 6 teams right now are getting challenged in the run for playoffs. So I feel like some of the teams have maybe just accepted that, oh, okay, we can in some way relax a little bit because we're going to make the top 6. Compared to like the top teams who seem to be aiming for, we want the bye week, so like you guys, G2 and so on. I'm not saying teams are slacking or anything, but because they're the number 7 team in the league right now is still Elements, and they lost again today and had a very poor showing. Actually, no, so they had a fine showing, but then they had a poor team fight in the end. But Elements are not pressuring Origin and Fnatic and Unicorns to take the spot. So you don't have that issue. You're just kind of accepting, oh, let's get the quarterfinal, and then take it from there, and like get into BU5. And maybe that's a bit of an issue for some of these teams, because the improvement is super slow for both Unicorns, Origin, and Fnatic. It's like, we are just walking forward. The top 3 teams are like running.
Yeah, I think that's
true. I mean, it's just true because like we were talking with Prolly and Youngbuck. Just every time, like for example, like G2 was playing against Elements. Like if you go into like a Vitality room, it's like go Elements, but it's competitive wise, right? Because we really like every time we hope that the enemy team we are facing is doing a mistake. H2K playing against Fnatic. I know I want Fnatic to win in theory because like I want to get the spot.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
All right, but I'm happy that you won because you're a nice guy. So then after, when you go to Rotterdam, instantly when you have the 2 best spots, like you get instantly to semifinals, which makes you having 1 less BO5 and gives you all the information that the team you will play against in 4th, while you don't reveal anything because you didn't have to play. So you can just have every information. So that's why it's really like it's crucial for us like to get this race, and which maybe Origin and stuff doesn't have.
And the possible championship points at the end of the year, because in the end, when we talk about Fnatic and we've listened to them about their goals, they've always said, hey, this is a plan that's going to go for a year. Our goal is Worlds. This is where we have to peak. We need to talk about their progression, though, because it hasn't happened for them yet. They've said when they change the support role, hey, IEM Katowice is coming up. We want to peak. We want to be better in that time. It's not there yet. Do you think that they can get it in order before the playoffs? And what do they need to change?
I don't know. It seems like most of the decisions Fnatic are making are purely like really long term. And right now, I think, yeah, they just got their new support, and I don't think they're going to be getting the, what they expect out of it in the next couple of weeks. I think it's going to be like maybe all the way up until playoffs before it starts paying off, at least what their strategy is.
But is Fnatic really in a different situation compared to so many of the other teams who also made a ton of roster changes coming in?
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because in my opinion, Daler's like the only coach who wants to do things on an extremely long timeline. Like most coaches that I've talked to, like, it's like a week-to-week thing, like maybe 2 weeks at a time, like breaks, maybe like month ahead of time. But I feel like Daler normally prepares things that will pay off in like 2 to 3 months or something like that, which I feel like is...
Do you have an example?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, because like the same you can talk about, Origin and Unicorns. Are they maybe saying we want to do some practice now that benefits us in a month? So like when we are in the playoff itself, compared to like H2K
That's what I
Vitality,
think
who might
the
be doing
support
practice.
changes. I think the
So
support change
okay.
is for playoff change.
Okay.
And not for whatever like I am, because that's a
Sure.
it's not going to affect Worlds basically.
Yeah,
I mean the lifestyle things, like he's a big lifestyle coach with like eating right and gym stuff. That's all things that aren't going to affect the week to week. It's going to start affecting like over a long period of time. It's going to have positive results. So that's how I feel like a lot of the decisions are, and that's why I think right now it's really slow, like crawl for them.
Yeah, you have this like mindset that is interesting because he brings up Clay, never had any competitive experience. I don't think even have a team or like maybe 1 or 2 teams around. Like, but then after you cannot expect this instant results from the team in theory, right? We look up at Fnatic, insanely good in 2K15, trying like to be one of the best team in the world. But then now like it's a bit really harder because it makes us think like, okay, they are maybe struggling a little bit right now, but will it pay off? Will it like show up? Because the synergy is like not yet ready.
Yeah, but in the end, if there's anything we've learned, and also from Trevor here at the top of the show, Daylor has been insanely successful with that new lineup in 2015 as well. We know how capable he is. It will remain to be seen what will end up of Fnatic this year. But while we're on the topic of coaches, OG, of course, well, we have 2 coaches here. They're also in that kind of same spot as Fnatic. They're still struggling. They had a fantastic game today, though, where it showed much semblance of the OG that we thought we would see this season. They have also announced that they have a new head analyst, Nico, in there. And I think it's quite interesting that they say head analyst and not coach, because we have heard Soaz before saying, hey, we know how to live and play the game, so to say. Like, I think that's an interesting kind of change, that it is an analyst and not a coach. What is your vision on the uncoachability of the team and everything that's been floating around?
I think it's really funny that the like, we've been playing for a while, you can't tell me what to do, it is really a thing. Like, to me, that makes me think that the people who have stepped up like just haven't been right, or they're like just straight up wrong about stuff. So yeah, immediately when you tell someone to do something and you don't have like merit behind it, they're gonna start being offended by you asking them to do stuff. So maybe they just haven't gotten the right person. It's too hard to say if they're uncoachable. They are definitely difficult, I would say, if they have this stance that they do. But I definitely wouldn't rule out like coaches for them. Like, I feel like all they need is someone who's right and proves them wrong a couple of times, and then they'll shut up and listen.
Yeah, I agree on this part because like right now the League of Legends game came to a point where like you need a coach just either as good as the players in terms of macro or strategy, or at least like to show you like as a life coach, right? But Origin needs like a macro strategist that tells them, all right, for example, amazing, you're saying something, but this thing is wrong. Look, I'm gonna show you this replay of this team, and then after like if one player doesn't like agree on this, then after you have to show him again and again. But the thing is like Origin is like not the best team in Europe right now, so they of course have to improve. So they cannot say we are actually really veterans, we know what to do, we know how it is, because it's wrong. Otherwise they would be the top of the table.
And we don't actually know if that is what's happening either. It's a lot of ifs and buts.
Yeah, well, from talking to Origin though a few times, just also on the desk, we've talked to them. They often seem to say they want someone who can help them with the meta, and also like with scouting overall. So like maybe that's why they call it a head analyst instead of a coach. They want someone who can gather information, give it to the players to help like pick and ban phases and help like finding new picks in the meta. But then in game, I think they probably still feel like they know more in terms of how to play on a macro level, even though we have seen that's not the case. Obviously, I know Mythi at least is a very smart player, but obviously it's difficult to execute it on stage from time to time. So I think maybe they've been looking for someone to help them scouting and preparing patches, because that was something they highlighted coming into the split was a big issue. They weren't ready for the current meta, playing the wrong champions, and maybe that's what they want to avoid now.
We'll see how this change affects them. If and when they make it to playoffs. If not, we will see what happens with all that. Let's look at the 3 teams that have locked. Obviously, I want to touch on it one more time. A big shock to all of us, the Forgiven news today. Obviously, we don't want to say too much about what will happen, because you also don't have that much information probably about the Forgiven situation as going forward. But in any case, it will be a lot of stress on your team to deal with. So what's kind of your vision on moving forward and keeping the morale up going into playoffs, because you're in a great position?
I mean, I guess the silver lining to this is, when we were losing Ryu, like he had to leave to go to Korea. Like if Forgiven has to end up going to Greece, like, it's not that far. Like, he's still pretty much in one time zone. Like, we can still hang out and stuff. With Ryu, like, it almost became like a huge disconnect because the time zone difference was just so huge and he had to be gone for such a long time. So at least, like, the distance won't be as bad for this. So that's the best part. Everything else about it sucks.
Yeah, obviously. We will see what happens. You guys obviously locked in that playoff spot. G2 Vitality here with Shaunz. We had Youngbuck on the desk. We asked him about the recklessness of G2 and kind of the one style that we've been seeing and maybe detrimental to them. He said they've been working on it and doesn't really see it as that much of an issue. What do you guys think, the difference in styles?
I think, like as I said, like previously on the desk, like G2 is a team that like understand the macro overall, but then after, instead of just thinking about turret, they just try to get fight to unlock an objective, right? And if you anticipate how they're gonna fight, like let's say you see a ward putting on the mid lane, you know that Malphite has TP, so you know that if you go a little bit too far, you're gonna TP, then you will just do it. But you have 30 seconds or 1 minute anticipation, so after you can already tell your, for example, top player, you can push as much as you want because Malphite gonna TP in 1 minute, so don't be afraid. Then after you're gonna TP, you disengage, top player does everything he wants, and then this is how they lose, right? It's like both teams are like really good at macro plans, but then it comes with who understand what the enemy gonna do as fast as possible, like 1 minute before, right? And I think like G2 is a bit lacking in this part.
I think what G2 needs the most, and it's not something you can get in this situation, is like an old Yellow Star type. So like a leader who doesn't necessarily have to go in and match the other players in terms of individual skill, but is able to kind of say, calm down. Like, we just made 3 very good plays. What's the only play the other team can make now? Okay, how do we avoid that play? You know, is it buying more pink wards? Is it setting up properly for this? Is it not starting a super risky Baron because you're already winning the game? And like these small calls in game, I don't think they have that. I think they have a lot of players who get super hype and like get a lot of confidence and just feel like we are 10,000 gold ahead in like 20 minutes. Keep going forward, you know, keep moving forward. And they don't have the guys saying, relax guys, buy your pink wards, set them up at Baron properly. We do Baron slow. Then we take the Baron, and then we finish the game. It kind of goes like, let's just fight already, you know? We just want to go, go, go. And then sometimes they overextend and get TP'd on or take a bad fight into a late game comp and lose.
Yeah, we are talking about this as, you know, they are in a good position.
Hey,
they're short number, yeah, indeed. But I mean, it is good because they have a vastly different style from you two teams as well.
What's our style?
What's our style?
Strong macro game, tower pushing.
I mean, like,
Cabo camping.
Okay, so I will say I think their macro is fine.
Yes.
I do think they'll take fights just because they want to and not really know why they want to make this fight. Like, you know, if you have a better team fight comp, then, you know, after a certain amount of time, you should take every single team fight. But, you know, they do something like they take Nidalee and then they force every single fight all game. And it's like, come on, man. Like, you have Nidalee. Like, no matter what jungler they have, they at least have one champion better.
Plan? Like, what's the plan now? What's the next move to make instead of it being, we should fight? Like, we just need to keep fighting because we're winning. Like, that seems to be the way it's going now, even though they have a lot of good macro calls. I think they just need a guy who can basically tell them to calm down.
It's still macro. Like, let's go bot and fight. Oh, they left. Free turret. Now it looks like a good rotation for a turret. So I still think
But then there's 2 wards behind and double TP, and then they get destroyed.
But then they wanted to fight. They're not happy with the fight.
But it's not how it should happen, right? It's more like we want to get, for example, top side of the map, right? Then after we're gonna try to just prepare and set up the thing. It's like, okay, so you go there, this is lane assignment. Then after you move on, and then you have to be a little bit careful because when you're like setting up a plan, the enemy can always like sneak up and break it. So then after you go, and once you're ready for the plan, once you know that even if you lose a team fight, you will get something out, then this is the moment where you accept every fight. And this is what G2 should bring, because as like Prolly said, and I agree, it's more like, okay, we're going to go there to fight. And I don't think this is the correct decision. It's always like, we're going to go there. Once we are ready to fight. So if they try to come up, we will fight them. If they don't, we get free objectives. So that's the difference between G2 and I think what they could do better, I think.
I guess maybe it's skipping steps. Saying like, we're supposed to like set up vision here and then push out this lane and then go top. It just goes like, let's just rush top. And then sometimes they get surprised and get flanked and like take a bad fight.
Yeah, we'll see if
I would say that's pretty accurate.
We'll see if they can get it in order for playoffs, because then they'll be absolutely scary for you two guys here as well as they already are. No?
Will they?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I always respect all the opponent compared to my colleague, but I mean...
There's a difference between respect and
I'm
scared.
kidding, definitely. I mean, like I think, like H2K and Vitality are like the safest team in terms of like we do like the least mistake because I really
Most
think
boring. I'll correct you there. Most boring team.
boring team. Okay, that's better. So we are the most boring team out there because we try to do as least mistake as possible, right? I think this game is more about who does the most mistake. So like if both teams doesn't do anything, then Vitality versus H2K, right? And then after once a team does a big mistake, H2K, then after like the other team win. I mean, talking about our game, right?
Yeah,
It would be a long best out of 5 if every game goes an hour, though.
It would
We'll
be. But
there
if
for a
it's
while.
5 games of that game specifically, then
Gonna be exhausting.
yeah, no, it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's ask you guys a couple of questions that we got sent in from the people all over Twitter. The first one from @saucer writes, on average, how long does it take to get a team ready for new patches? Quite interesting. I know last season we talked a lot to you about because there were some issues with H2K adapting to the patch fast enough. What is your vision on it?
Patches are really hard because it's going to be a lot of RNG because you might just be straight up wrong about a change. But most of it is, I feel like you prepare the most for patches when, not when you're playing solo queue, but when you just end up having 5 guys just talking about the game. Because that's going to give the biggest direction. Like someone brings up a buff here and then everyone goes off of it. Like how does it affect your lane? Even if it's not like a top laner, they can all kind of like contribute to that. And that kind of like shapes like, cool, if this tank top lane is going to be really OP, now Kog'Maw is stronger. Now, like, you know, tank killers are stronger. So I feel like if your whole team is just talking about it, like, it makes patches really easy. It's not really set for one person to decide how the patch should be played.
Do you set up meetings to do that, or is it just random talk in the
No,
house?
it's like, I mean, if it didn't happen, then yeah, I'd have to set up meetings. But, I mean, I'm with a whole bunch of nerds, and they're as nerdy as I am. So we just sit and talk about League all day, so it works out.
All right.
Yeah, I think like we set up meetings like every time there's a patch. Like we try to like just figure out okay buff, nerf, left, nerf, and things like that. Then after we try out some stuff, and then we notice that as like talking about that, as I'm totally agreeing on that one. When you connect all the players on the same spot, they all have like good understanding in certain areas that we, as 5 people will connect, and then we'll create one answer into all of this, and makes every patch like easier. But then after, if you have the wrong idea, maybe you can look up for other teams. Like maybe we go when we scrims, when we like just look at VODs and things like that. Maybe you can be wrong on 1 week or 1 day, but then after you try to fix it.
Yeah, it's similar how we deal with it as a casting team, and then the official still comes out and says Kog'Maw. We won't see him a lot. 90%.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Triggered.
I said he wouldn't get banned every game,
Okay.
and that was correct.
I mean, you were.
But
you
now
were.
he's getting
You
banned
were.
every game,
Yeah.
so teams learn from last
Yeah,
time.
you were correct in the end.
I was about to do that Monte Cristo no thing right here, man. Calling me out on it.
No.
In any case, our next tweet is from @MNAMilt. Says, what skills, mindset, or habits that you had as a player have hindered you as a coach that you had to unlearn? Quite interesting. Who wants to take first? I mean, all 3 were ex-players.
My English.
Playing a Ziggs every game, maybe, probably.
No, I was right about that. And Ryu's just stubborn.
Can you
I don't know,
explain the question?
Yeah, you guys go on.
Is there anything you did as a player that you definitely don't want to see your players doing? You maybe had to also tell them not to do, or was glaring to you, or you had to unlearn in yourself not to tell them to do? I think that's what I mean.
Yeah, that there's one really important thing is like blaming on anyone. Like the famous no but or yes but is like triggering me every time, because as a team, and especially right now, you have to be everyone on the same page, and everyone does mistake, right? There's no like really star players never do mistake, always good matchup. No, there's not like that. So every time you will do a mistake, you need to fix it as a team, and then you have to accept and acknowledge what is the mistake. Then you have to write the right answer, and then if you have like smart player around you, then it makes it easier. But overall, it's all about like never blaming anyone and just trying its best every time in the game to make sure like if there is a mistake, we don't care about the mistake. We will find the solution of the mistake to make us better rather than just focusing on the problem. So yeah, one of the things I really like try to focus on, and I think I was like that as a player, is always to strive for improving rather than just blaming.
I think tunnel vision on specific champions is something players still do today. Like you will talk to one player, just randomly he'll go like, oh, this champion is so good, and the other champion there, it's terrible. But everyone else is like, no, this champion is actually okay. He's like, no, it's bad. I don't want to play it. I don't want to touch it. I don't even want to learn it. You know, whatever it is. Like you tunnel so hard on specific picks, and it's something especially back, you know, in season 3 when I was active, when there weren't that, you know, many coaches, or actually no coaches at all. It would be specifically players just going like, yeah, I want to play Ziggs today because Ziggs is really strong right now. And then you would ignore what like every other mid laner would be playing. Instead, like they would play LeBlanc or whatever. You'd be like, no, Ziggs, I got to play Ziggs. And it ruins your pick and ban phase a lot when you're stuck on a few specific picks, unless of course it is probably Ziggs. It would help you pick a man face.
Or Jesses.
And that's something you learn. As soon as you kind of step out and you look, you know, the big picture, you look at like, why are these 10 different picks being played in mid lane? I could only play 2 of them, but actually all 10 had value, and you learn more about that.
Anything to add, or that's?
I mean, I guess one that I noticed is when I was a player for a while until I got smarter. If I messed up in scrims or anything like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, but it's just scrims. Like I wouldn't do that on stage, right? And then I had a player use that on me. So being on the receiving end of it, I was like, all right, you're gonna play like you play on stage right now. I'm not gonna deal with this scrim stuff anymore.
All right.
Yeah, you learn from your mistakes too, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is in life.
All right. Yeah. Very inspirational. Off to a lighter topic. Looking at the numbers, it's clear that Soaz will be the envy of your fantasy LCS league today. 8 kills, 9 assists, a KDA of 17 for a total of 35.5 points. He is today's fantasy MVP. I mean, 2 weeks running now, or like 2 weeks and a half, Soaz has been shining.
If he could make up his mind though about how many fantasy points he wants to get every week, it could be nice, because I would assume a lot of people have started benching him because he obviously hadn't done that well.
Oh, guilty.
You were one of them?
Yeah.
So that already there we have one.
I'm horrible at fantasy.
and now he's been doing well lately, so it's always tricky, right? He goes a little bit up and down.
Yeah.
Do you guys play fantasy?
Yeah.
I mean,
kind of.
I mean, we play
In the
fantasy
LCS.
every day. So we play fantasy for real, so.
Yeah.
But with one team. I mean, we don't mix
I
it.
kind of focus on, playing the league for my own team.
It's fine. You get replays from us.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's cool.
And it all continues tomorrow, the fantasy and the real life, with week 7 of the spring split at 6 p.m. Central European time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Origin will face off against G2, and Giants will take on H2K, and we'll wrap up the week with Vitality versus Elements. I also see Fnatic versus ROCCAT there. Quite interesting, of course. Noxiak gets to go up against his very former ex-team. Interesting matchup. And Origin versus G2, after what they've shown today, I feel inclined to say that they have a bigger chance. Yes, no?
I mean, it's always a problem when the top 6 teams are playing the bottom 4 teams, and they have like this almost perfect game in a sense, because we're like, oh, that looked really good. It was very smooth. And then it's like, well, they're also against a team who didn't do that well. But it's always the question for me, when is Origin kind of coming online? Will they come online this split? It's hard to say. And I feel like G2 has looked a bit worse the last 2 weeks compared to the start of the split, because teams are trying to figure them out more and more. But, I mean, G2 should be favorites to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the OG game today showed that, yeah, they can, keep it together later in the game. But I think it took them something like 20 minutes to, start playing hard. And I don't think G2's a team who's going to give you 20 minutes to kind of ramp up what you want to do in the game. So I don't think they'll kind of get that opportunity unless they, take it for themselves.
And remember that the OG game was against Splice with the team fight of Splice, so which was really wrong. To be honest, so OG a bit focused on the enemy mistakes. So let's see if G2 can make more mistakes than them to win the game.
Yeah. We will see tomorrow. Until then, though, we'll have to respawn and ready up the Rift. Before we go, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us, the other coaches as well today. It was really nice. Did you guys have fun?
No.
Coach Week is nice.
Coaches Week is nice. I agree.
Every week
Yeah.
is Coaches
Every week is what? How?
Not really.
Okay.
When
Anyway,
is Diffie Show Week?
the Visual Week. We'll be back tomorrow with more Coaches Week, though, and much more cool insight. So we'll see you then. Nailed it.